Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into Tider Insider TV. Can you see our Bama lantern here? Yeah, how about that? That's Bama Far. Big Alabama fan, big Tider Insider fan, made that a couple of years ago. And with it being Halloween, we thought we would put it out there.
There you
like
go.
That?
I like that.
Welcome into Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Tonight, Diet Pepsi on this Halloween evening. I figure, Rodney, when you get back home, all the trick-or-treaters are going to be coming around, and you're going to be eating a lot of candy, so I figured to let you drink Diet Pepsi tonight to kind of counter that sugar just a little bit.
You know I'll be eating candy.
Because that tastes good, and that's 0 calories right there, no sugar. So pick up some great Pepsi products the next time you're at your local grocery store. Well, happy Halloween and happy college football playoff rankings day. And, of course, a very happy birthday to Alabama head coach Nick Saban, who turns 66.
Wow.
Doesn't look it, does he?
No, he does not.
Well, it does not come as a shock that an SEC team is #1 in the rankings, but it may surprise some, Rodney, that it's not Alabama. Wow. I frankly am surprised. It's Georgia. Kirby Smart shaking things up. Georgia is #1. Alabama is #2. Notre Dame is 3, and Clemson got in there at #4. I'm surprised by that a little bit. So if the playoff started this weekend and it doesn't, those would be your 4. And you've got Oklahoma at #5 and Ohio State at #6. I'm a little surprised there. I thought it would be Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Notre Dame in the top 4. But just your thoughts, and as Coach Saban was clear to point out yesterday, it really doesn't matter at this point, but are you surprised that they put Georgia ahead of Alabama? I am. I like Georgia. They've had a good year. Alabama's the #1 ranked team in the country. To me, they're the best football team in the country at this point. They should be #1 in the playoff rankings, but they're not.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, but surprised based on what's happened so far? Not really, because, you know, Georgia does have that win over Notre Dame. I think they're placing a lot of emphasis on that right now. I agree with you, Gary. I don't think Georgia's the best team in the country by far, to be quite honest with you. You know, and I certainly think Alabama's one of the top 4, and it's good to see them in at #2. And I think, you know, again, I think in some ways, Gary, sometimes not being #1 can be good.
Yeah, I think so. I know exactly where you're going with that. I do think Alabama, in the Nick Saban way of doing things, is he says he doesn't pay any attention to it, but I guarantee you they'll know. He'll make sure they know that they're not #1. They'll take it as a slap in the face, and they'll take it as a reminder that regardless of what you've done, it's all about what you do. And that's been Saban's message anyway. So you're right, Roddy. It may be a good thing for Alabama that the Tide is at #1. And I listened to a few minutes of the ESPN show when it came on, and all of them were going out of their way to list reasons why you shouldn't assume anything with Alabama. And, you know, they were even talking about Auburn still being a playoff contender, even with 2 losses. So everybody's making sure that they point out that Alabama's got a lot of work ahead of it before it can even get to the playoff. And that was Nick Saban's message this week anyway, going into the LSU game.
Well, I mean, at 8-0, really, they haven't accomplished anything yet. That's clear. I mean, their toughest competition lies ahead over the next month. I mean, you have LSU coming in this weekend that's playing a lot better. Then, obviously, you have Mississippi State, which is a really good, improving team. I mean, they've only lost 2 games. They had a very impressive win at Texas A&M. And then later on, you have to go to Auburn. We know what that snake pit can be down there. So, you know, it's a tough road over the next month. And then if you're fortunate enough to get through that and go to the SEC championship game, that certainly will be very competitive.
Yeah, November will decide the season for a lot of teams, including Alabama. But LSU is next. And guess what? After that slow start, the Tigers are a top 20 opponent. So it's another top 20 matchup, just like we expect every year from this game. Here are the 2 head coaches talking about what has become one of the best rivalries, not just in the SEC, but in the country.
On Alabama, a very important game for the state of Louisiana, a very important game to our fans, a very important game to our alumni, a great tradition, a very important game to our football team.
All around, I think this is probably the best team we played to this point in the season, especially the way they're playing right now, and this will be certainly the most challenging game that we've had to this point.
I do love to hear Coach O talk, don't you? Right now, we got to beat Alabama. That's why I was hired to be the coach at LSU. I was born in this state. I understand what it's all about. It is a big game, and let's get on the subject of this game. LSU was very, you know, they were left for dead after the Troy loss. They got blown out at Mississippi State. They lose at home to Troy. Give that football team some credit. They went to Florida, snuck out a win there. They came home down 20 points to Auburn, rallied to win that one. Then they blew out Ole Miss and Oxford. And let's keep this in mind. Obviously, Alabama's the favorite here. I think they're the better football team. But everybody talks about Auburn. LSU's the team that controls its own destiny outside of Alabama. If they win the rest of the SEC games, they're going to Atlanta.
Yep. I think one thing people forget about LSU is they are extremely talented. I mean, they've recruited extremely well over the last several years. Les Miles did a good job. He left Ed Orgeron a lot of players. There's no question about that. This is a very talented team that will come into Tuscaloosa. The question is, Gary, and I think Alabama's in their head a little bit. Let's be honest. And I think Ed Orgeron, to me, the way he's played up this Alabama game I'm talking about from the very start. I mean, I really think that could be a detriment to his team coming into a game like this. And I'm not talking about this week. I'm talking about he's been kind of focusing on this game even back last January he was talking about it, or even the end of last year's game. So, again, I do think it's a big game for them, and I do think that they will be well prepared coming in.
There have been times when they've come into this game, and the two teams were basically even, and everybody expected LSU to have a chance to win, and they didn't. Now, as a 20-plus point underdog, do you think they can use that to their advantage?
I do. I do think that they can play a little more loosely in this game, or looser, however you want to phrase it. Now, I'll say this. Matt Canada is doing a nice job. Gary's a little more diverse than what they've seen in the past. So I think, certainly that's going to give them a new kind of look offensively a little bit. I think Danny Etling, the quarterback, is playing really well right now. He's got 9 touchdown passes, only 1 interception. So he's playing within himself. He's doing a nice job of that, of managing the offense, and they're starting to kind of get things going. Darius Geis is an outstanding running back, as you know. He's got over 700 yards receiving, and Darrell Williams, the guy that backs him up, he has close to 500, Gary, and over 200 yards receiving. So he's a really versatile guy. They have a lot of weapons offensively. They're very talented on defense. You know that. They did a great job of really shutting Alabama down last year. You remember what Dave Aranda did. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country.
Oh, he's very good. And let me say this, too. It's good for Alabama that LSU has turned it around. Because if they came in here around 500 or out of the race completely, Alabama would get no credit for winning this game. They may not get much anyway if they win it, but LSU now is a top 20 team that controls its own destiny as far as winning the SEC West. So it's a good opponent for Alabama, and the Tide will have to be ready to go. And that's what Nick Saban does. He gets his teams ready to play. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama flips a commitment from Michigan. We'll discuss this big interior offensive lineman when we return. And coming up later, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number is the same, 205-348-WVUA. That's 205-348-9882. Email us at the address on your screen, TITV@WVUA23.com. Brandon Cameraman will be checking for those emails. Or tweet at us. If you tweet at us, use that hashtag TITV again, so we'll make sure that we see it. And if you get a tweet to us, we'll try to get it on the air as well. This is the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the award-winning Tider Insider TV. We'll return right after this.
I know we always as soon as he come in, we always have cupcakes and we have a little party hats on. When he comes in, just to mess with him, say happy birthday. That's pretty much it. After that, he practices.
How about that? To some people, most people around the country, it's Halloween, but for Alabama football fans and players, it's Nick Saban's birthday, as I mentioned earlier. The Alabama head coach turned 66 today, and the team celebrated, as always, with cupcakes and then, as Averett said, practice. Of course, today is also Halloween, so it's a very special Atrox horrific play of the game. Instead of an actual play of the game, since we didn't have a game last week, we went to Saban's press conference, of course, on Monday, when he was asked about the college football playoff rankings. That's always a scary question to ask the coach, and here was his response.
And now, the horrific play of the game, brought to you by Atrox.
I could care less about the poll. I mean, what significance does a poll have right now? I mean, all we're talking about here is the challenge of our season and where are we going to be in the poll if we don't play well in the next 4 games. So I'm focusing on the next 4 games. I could care less about the poll. You won't see me wasting any time watching TV or watching who's 1, who's 2, and it really doesn't matter. What really matters is how you play the rest of the season, how you focus the rest of the season, how you stay focused the rest of the season. If our players think anything of it, then that could be a problem and an issue too. And, these are the things that we try to categorize as poison that you really don't want your players to be focusing on or thinking about. but I appreciate you asking so I could get this off my chest.
It can be a little scary at times. That horrific play of the game was brought to you by Atrox, the Southeast's largest all-indoor haunted attraction, the only one that features a different horror celebrity every weekend. Atrox last night open is this evening, Halloween night, so head over there for the scare of a lifetime. For more information, head to Facebook and Twitter or visit atroxfactory.com. Well, Alabama flipped the commitment of one of the top interior offensive linemen in the country over the weekend, Rodney. Emil Ekiyor of Indianapolis was previously committed to Michigan, but after an official visit to Tuscaloosa a couple of weeks ago, he decommitted from the Wolverines and announced on Twitter that he is rolling with the Tide. Rodney, obviously a huge victory on the recruiting front for Alabama. Offensive line has been an area they've just really been outstanding the last few years, and it's continuing this year. I think he's the third offensive line commit, and this is a young man that gives you some versatility as a center, possibly a guard, and even potentially, if needed, a tackle.
Well, I think when you look at Emil Ekiyor, you're looking at perhaps the top center prospect in the entire country in the 2018 class. He's 6'2", 335 pounds. Gary, he's got a mean streak. He's aggressive. He's got all the things that you look for. Obviously, he's got a strong base, lower half of the body. Very powerful kid, can move pretty well. And, you know, I agree with you. I think it's a big pickup because I think he's going to be an early enrollee. That's the plan. And he gets an opportunity doing that to come in and start competing and developing right away. And, you know, Bradley Bozeman is leaving after this year, so you really never know what could happen. He certainly could have an opportunity to compete.
Yeah, he's a good-looking football player. All right, we're just getting rolling good here on TITV on this Halloween evening. When we come back, phone calls are lined up for us, Rod, so we'll take your calls, emails, and tweets right after this. Trick or treat? We got both for you here on TITV. Welcome back, everybody. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. It's time now to take some phone calls, and we are excited that, you know, when it comes to Alabama artwork, Daniel Moore says it all, doesn't he, Rodney?
Yeah, he sure does.
And now our phone lines are becoming the New Life Art Tighter Insider Hotline. That's right. Wow. Glad to have Daniel Moore and New Life Art on board, and they're lined up for us, Rodney. So let's get to the New Life Art Hotline and welcome in Rick from Bluff Park. Hey, Rick, how are you?
Hey, fellas, how you doing?
Very well.
I appreciate you taking my call. I'd like to ask, when was the last time Alabama was ranked number one twice in the same season? I would also like to ask about Brother Darius Geis. You know, he returned kicks his first couple of years at LSU and ran into Highway 46, Uptown Brown, and Reuben Foster 3 times in 2 games. I know he's not returning kickoffs this year. And also, are there Ohio State alumni in the NFL who have a death wish for Baker Mayfield? I appreciate you taking my call. Thank you, sir.
All right, Rick. That's a load there. Number one twice in the same season. I'm assuming they were number one, lost it, and got it back. You think that's what he's talking about?
Could be. I mean, I don't remember 2012. How, you know, obviously they lost to Texas A&M at one one.
And then finished number 1.
11. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember all
that. It's probably happened.
Well, it certainly happened.
A few times.
Because I know in 1978 it happened when Alabama started number 1, lost to USC, and ended up winning the national championship.
So it's happened a few times. As far as Geis, he's a good player. I certainly remember Leonard Fournette returning kickoffs and getting rocked.
Yes, he did.
That's for sure. And Ohio State alumni that have a death wish for Baker Mayfield?
Well, I know one thing. If Ohio State would probably like to get another crack at Baker Mayfield because he sure lit them up in Columbus earlier this season.
He did. All right. Thanks, Rick. Let's go to Talladega and talk with Charles. Charles, welcome into the program.
Hey, how you doing, Gary?
Very well, man.
Hey, remember I called you last week and told you about that running back?
Yeah.
His name is Colin Cross.
What's his last name?
Cross. Colin Cross.
Colin Cross.
He go to Talladega County Central High School.
Talladega Central, okay.
I'm
making note of it.
Okay, I think he's one of the top 10 running backs in the state. That boy is good.
Okay, we'll look him up. And I'll tell you, like I told you last week, if he's good enough, Alabama will find him. You're talking about small school players. Bradley Bozeman's another example. Kid came from a small school right here in Alabama, and now he's an All-American candidate at center. So Colin Cross from Talladega Central. I'll check him out. Rodney will too, and we'll follow up on that. All right, let's go to Northport and talk with Stephen. Stephen, welcome into TITV.
Rodney, you and Gary, let me say first, y'all are a great show. I love it. Been watching it and been calling in this year. Got a couple of little quick questions for you real quick.
Okay.
Okay, how many LSU or Louisiana players are on our roster, and how many Alabama players are on the Louisiana State roster? And then my follow-up is, have you heard any rumors of Dan Mullins maybe going to Florida or Tennessee? He's such a great coach, and Mississippi State's a great college to be at, but he could do so much more at a bigger college. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Stephen. Rodney's writing them off. I can rattle off the names quicker and tell you the number. I think it's probably 8 or 10 players from Louisiana on the Alabama roster.
Yeah, they signed 5 last year in that class. So, I mean, there's probably 8 or 9, as Gary said, and you know a lot of them. Dylan Moses, obviously Isaiah Buggs, Chris Allen on the defensive side, Devontae Smith, Hootie Jones. We could go through several that are, Alabama's done a really good job of recruiting in Louisiana over the last few years. Now, as far as the flip side of that, there's really not very many players from Alabama.
This year.
No.
They had some in the past, but I don't think they have that many right now. And as far as Dan Mullen, hearing rumors that he could be on the move. Florida obviously is a possibility with Scott Strickland, the AD, now having been the AD at MSU. All right, we got to come back with more right after this. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We'll head right back to the New Life Art Hotline in just a moment. But first, Rodney, a couple of emails. Robert sent us an email in, wants to know about other Alabama QBs getting some playing time too. Well, Robert, Mac Jones, the true freshman, is probably going to redshirt, and then after that you've got some walk-ons. And listen, man, Tua Tagovailoa is still learning the game, and really Jalen Hurts is still a young quarterback. So I think right now the focus will be on those two for this season. Wouldn't you agree, Rodney?
I don't think there's any question about that, Gary. Again, you mentioned the third guy, Mac Jones, being redshirt, and by the way, I understand he's doing an outstanding job. Really caught the attention.
Very talented,
Yes, doing well.
All right, let's take another email from Larry, who wants to know about quarterback recruiting. This year's class, who are looking at 2019, besides Tua's younger brother, Talia. Well, Larry, right now I do think they're trying to sign a quarterback for this 2018 class, aren't
yes,
they, Rod?
I think so. I tell you the guy to watch out for, Ohio State commit Emory Jones, who is out of Franklin Heard County over in Georgia. He's an outstanding player. Again, he's been committed to Ohio State for a while. I think Alabama's really in very strongly with him. And Jaron Williams would be probably another guy. But I think Jones is Jaron Williams, also from Georgia, by the way. But I think Jones is the one to keep an eye on.
All right, let's go back to the New Life Art Hotline and talk with John in Jasper. Hey, John, you're on the program. What's up, man?
Yes, sir. How's our offense going to match up with LSU defense? And how's the defense going to match up with the offense? And also, they do what they want to do, but when it's all said and done, Alabama will be a national championship. They got the best team out there.
I hear you, John. I think they do, but as we said, they still got to prove it. Offensively, Alabama's offense, I think, matches up well against LSU's defense. LSU's defense is stout up front. I don't think they are what they've been. I think Alabama can run the football on them, and if Alabama can run the football, then they can usually dictate to the defense.
Yep. And also, Gary, I think LSU's been a little beat up defensively. Rashard Lawrence, their really outstanding defensive tackle, has been hurt, so they're a little banged up on the defensive line. LSU giving up a little bit more yardage defensively against the run, close to 150 this year. Usually they're down around 90 or so. I mean, so they're not really stopping the run like they have been. And I agree with you. I think certainly that Alabama, if they can establish the run, they'll dictate the game.
And on the other side, they're going to try to stop guys just like they tried to stop Fournette. And Danny Etling, if he has to throw the football a lot, LSU's in trouble. So the focus will be on stopping that running game first.
Absolutely. With Geis and also Williams, and also they do a lot of those speed sweeps now with Russell Gage, and he's made some really big plays on those. So I think those would be the focal point.
All right, real quickly, Reg, in Birmingham, go, man. We got to go.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about Alabama's schedule. They got to remember Alabama didn't make those teams the way they are. They're SEC teams, and it is what they are.
Hey, Reg, you make a great point. I've been saying that all along. A lot of times these teams have bad seasons because after Alabama beats the snot out of them, they don't recover. Let's be honest. I think that happened with Florida State a little bit and losing the quarterback. I'm with you. You play who you play, but as we've talked, Alabama keeps winning, brother. They're going to be there. That's the bottom line for them. All right, great phone calls tonight, emails and tweets. Thanks a lot. Thanks to New Life Art for sponsoring our hotline. Still to come, a fun night of trick-or-treating for kids in Tuscaloosa. We'll have that for you. Coming up next, right here on TITV. Last night was the annual Halloween extravaganza at the Hank Crisp Indoor Practice Facility on the UA campus. Representatives from all of Alabama's athletic programs greeted young trick-or-treaters. The lines for Jalen Hurts, Rodney, they were so long that you pretty much had to get in line for Jalen Hurts and miss everybody else.
Wow.
Or get everybody else and not get Jalen. But he spent time with all those athletes did, not just the football players. It was a great night. Well, Rodney, it's time to rejoin our weekly picks segment. No game last week, so no pick, but we're both perfect on the season because we picked Alabama 8 times, and they've won 8 games, but now they face this LSU team that is bent on coming in here and proving something and ending this 6-game losing skid against the Tide. How do you see it?
Well, you know, I think LSU's playing a lot better. I've mentioned that. I think that offensively they're coming around a little bit with Matt Canada, their offensive coordinator. I think he's doing a nice job. I think defensively they've done a really good job. Thought it was a big win over Auburn a few weeks ago. Really helped them, you know, gain a lot of confidence. But listen, I think this Alabama team's a better football team. I think they're focused coming off this bye week. I think they're going to be prepared and really ready for LSU. 27-10 Alabama.
All right, Rod, you got a 27-10. I'm going to echo what you said. I think Alabama's going to be ready, too. I think getting through that 8-game stretch, the bye came at a perfect time. I think Nick Saban, even though he stresses the process all the time, really stressed it during that bye week, that the process has to continue 1 week at a time. You don't look ahead to Mississippi State. You don't look ahead to Mercer or Auburn or anybody. You play the game that's in front of you. That's LSU. I think Alabama is ready. I do think there could be a little extra motivation for the players based on the fact that they're not #1 in the first playoff rankings. And LSU's a quality football team. They're a good football team, but they're not at Alabama's level. Alabama at home is going to wind up winning this one comfortably. I've got it 35-13. I think the Tide will take down the Bayou Bengals right around that point spread, 21, 22, 23 points, right around in there. All right, that's what we think. We'll find out on Saturday night. Now, our beautiful shirts, as always, provided by the Locker Room in downtown Tuscaloosa, home of the original elephant wear. Notice I broke out the houndstooth tonight. How about that?
I did.
You can go by see Alex and Russ and the staff in person, or you can shop online at locker-room.biz. They've got original elephant wear and all kinds of great men's wear and women's wear too. I'm telling you what, you're going to look $1 million for fall. They got those pullovers ready for the games for November, so go by and see them at the Locker Room. All right, thanks for tuning in. If you missed the show, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 right here on WVUA 23, or you can catch it anytime at WVUA23.com. All right, for Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching Tider Insider TV, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great night. Enjoy Halloween, everybody.